the topic, the next chapter, it's a great topic. I'll talk a little bit about OnPassive today, but I want to talk about why everybody is here and why they're in OnPassive. And what I want to talk about is wealth. We're all interested in wealth. That's why we're here. We want to develop wealth. We want to find that place where we can take care of that financial bottom line and be independent. We've got a pretty mature group here tonight. We are streaming, and obviously, when you start talking about wealth and developing wealth, the younger you are, the more time you have to develop that wealth. And there are ways to develop wealth independent of OnPassive. And really, that's where I want to go today. There are ways that you can develop wealth without OnPassive. Okay. And then I want to bring OnPassive into the picture, and you'll understand how powerful what Mr. Muffar has done, his vision, the structure of OnPassive, everything he's done as far as cutting time frames. And when we start to talk about wealth, there have been precepts and concepts out there. They've been there a very, very long time. And I'm talking about thousands of years. So there really is nothing new under the sun. This stuff has been out there for a very, very long time. And there are people today that literally talk about these precepts and concepts, and they've made a living doing it, and they do very, very well. They make 6, 7, 8 figures a year. Why? Because we're all interested in building wealth, period. If you can build wealth, get to that place where you don't worry about money, and Marty talks about this all the time. He doesn't want to have to worry about money. I'm with him 100%. But if you can get there, it really is a phenomenal place to be. And the really good news is you don't need OnPassive to do this. And I'll get to that. OnPassive will make it a lot better, but I'll get to that. And I want to start with a few precepts, and you all will probably know where these come from. I'll let you figure that out. But the first one I want to start with is this: God gives you the ability to build wealth or get wealth. Okay? That's pretty powerful stuff. And whether you're a believer or not, it really doesn't matter. You have the ability to build wealth. Now, what do you need to build wealth? You need wisdom. And wisdom, she is something more precious than silver and gold. Why do I say that? And again, these are precepts that have been out there forever and ever and ever. And I've known these things for 20, 25, 30 years. But the reason why wisdom is more precious than gold and silver, once you have that wisdom, once you have that knowledge, you can actually implement that knowledge and put it to work for you and build wealth. And without that, without the knowledge, without the wisdom, it's really, really hard to do it. Now, you might have heard of some of these precepts that I'm going to talk about, but until you take them and put them all together and put them to work for you, it's really, really hard to get to that place where you're debt-free, where you're wealthy. The last thing I want to say before I get into the precepts is neither be a lender or a borrower. You've all heard that before. Why? You don't want to be a lender because when you lend people money, you steal their dreams, because chances are they'll never get out of debt. And you never want to be a borrower because once you get into debt, all of a sudden you become a debt slave. And if you look at the United States of America, it's probably the same around the world. Once people get into debt, they're in debt from 18 to 85 or however long they live. It's just the way it is. And until you can take care of that situation, you cannot build wealth, period. So I'm going to go over these very, very quickly. I'm not going to get in depth in any of them because I'd be here for 3 hours. But these precepts will give you the opportunity to actually build wealth. Not only build wealth, but you can be a millionaire within 8 to 12 years. Now, some of you here might already have that done. I don't know. But if we look at the overall population, 90, 95% of the people, they never get there. So these are really, really cool precepts that if you absolutely implement them, they can do some wonderful things for you. So the first thing I want to talk about is a budget. If you've never done a budget before, in other words, take the money that you're bringing in, and that is the caveat. You have to be working. You have to be bringing money in. Obviously, if you're sitting on your couch eating Cheerios and watching TV, you can't do this stuff. But if you have a job, if you have money coming in, all of this stuff will work for you. So the first thing you need to do is create a budget and put down all your expenses, where your money goes, get it on paper so you can see it. Once you do that, here's where it gets really, really difficult. This is where people have the most trouble, having the discipline and self-control to do the things necessary to build wealth. You have to go through your budget, and those things that are luxury items, they're gone, absolutely out of there. Whether it's a cell phone, if you don't need it, get rid of it. If it's a TV prescription, get rid of it. If it's a gym prescription, get rid of it. Everything that you don't need, you skinny down big time. And a lot of us are a little familiar with that with OnPassive because we've had to do the things we need to do in order to stay engaged and be on OnPassive while we were waiting for OnPassive to do what they needed to do to the launch. And that's kind of where we are right now. But it's kind of the same thing. You have to have the discipline, the self-control to get rid of all of that stuff. Now, once you do that, the first thing you need to do, you need an emergency fund, $1,000 to $2,000. Boom. Simple as that. Most people, it takes about 2 months to do that. Doesn't take that long. Once you do that, then you start whittling away the debt that you have. And it could be anything from credit cards to a car, to a TV, to whatever it is. Credit cards are a good example. If we look at the United States of America today, the people in the United States of America today are in debt about $1 trillion. It's a really, really big number. I mean, it's a big number. So you want to start whittling down your debt, and you start from smallest to largest. So you whittle down the first one, you take that money, you take it to the second, the third, the fourth, the fifth, until you're out of debt, not including your mortgage. I'll get to that in just a second. When you start to do this, this is where the discipline really comes in. It is not an easy thing to do to get rid of all the luxuries in your life and really focus on building wealth. But if you can do it, if you have the discipline and the self-control to do it, this works 100% of the time. It really does. And I can tell you, I've known these tenants for a very, very long time. And when I was younger, I knew about them, but I thought I could do it better. I wasn't very bright when I was younger. And I thought I could do it better. I could do it quicker. I could become a millionaire much quicker than what they thought. And this is again, 8 to 12 year period. Well, that didn't happen. And I did pretty well in some things, but because I didn't have the right mindset and the right understanding, I lost it. And it came and it went, and it came and it went. And finally, I smarted it up and I said, okay, I have to take a little more precise way to do this stuff. So initially, when you get your budget, $1,000, $2,000, boom, that's your emergency fund. From there, you pay off your debt, littlest to the largest, not including the mortgage. Once you've done that, you've got a chunk of change. And from there, you start to do several things at the same time. Number one, you want to start investing, and you want to take 15% of whatever you make and invest it. You can put it in mutual fund, Roth IRA. Really, there are a myriad of investments you can put out there, and over time, you'll do very, very well. And I'll give you a quick example. Today, if you bought a new car, the payment today is about $500. That's about what it is on the average, about $500. If you pay down your debt and you have a car, you don't own anything, and you don't buy that new car and you put that in your investment over the course of time from say 25 to 65, you're going to have $2, $3, $4, $5, $6 million in the bank. So debt will really steal that away from you. If you're putting that money into a new car, yeah, you got a nice car for a couple of years before it starts to go downhill. But if you can take that money, put it in an investment, you're going to do so much better by the time you reach 65. Also in that time frame, if you're, again, this is kind of for younger individuals that still have kids. If you have kids, you want to put money aside for their education, either college or a trade school. You never want your children to go out into the world, get an education, and then have debt as they go into the workforce. You want them to go into the workforce debt-free. It's what we're all trying to do, not only with this system, but with OnPassive, become debt-free. Debt really is the dream killer. And if you don't get out of debt, you're just never going to get to the place where you want to be. And by the way, that includes OnPassive. You can make $1 million a year with OnPassive, but if you spend it all, it's not a good thing to do. You need to put some of that away, and you want a legacy to leave on to your family and your extended family. So we need to invest. We need to take care of our kids and our own investment, and then we work on our mortgage. And again, I'm going through this very, very quickly, guys. The mortgage on average, it takes about 7 years to get rid of your mortgage. And I know most people, when they hear that, they go, that's impossible. You can't do that. No, you can do it. And there are ways to do that. I'm not going to get into them today. But the average individual that is really intentional about what they're doing can get rid of their mortgage in about 7 years. So we're looking at about 8 to 12 years for this whole program. Once you've gone through and you've paid off your mortgage, you're pretty much a millionaire. And here's how it looks. You either have $1 million in the cash, you either have $1 million in the bank, cash, or you have a combination of assets and cash. But both of them add up to $1 million. And because you have no debt, you are a millionaire. That's very quickly going through the tenets that have been around forever. And if you put them in order, if you use them, you will get out of debt, and you'll not only get out of debt, but you'll build wealth very, very quickly. And 10 years, that's pretty dang quick to become a millionaire. If someone would have really sat down and told me these things when I was 20, I would have been a millionaire by the time I was 30. I think all of us would agree with that. And we look at what we can do when we have discipline and self-control. Really, there are no limits on what you can do. And then we come into OnPassive. And, OnPassive today, we're really in a unique position, and things are changing. We are going into that new chapter. I'm not going to sit here and explain exactly how OnPassive works, because Ash Mufareh is going to come out and tell us how OnPassive is going to work in the new phase. When he does that, I can almost guarantee you that things are going to change. Okay. The way I explained it 5.5 years ago isn't going to be the same way I explain it when Ash comes out and gives us what's going on. But the caveat there, the vision hasn't changed. Mr. Mufareh wants to give as much away as he can, and he wants to change lives. And when we start to think about getting out of debt, using some other systems to get out of debt, and then we come into OnPassive, OnPassive will be here so that you can develop an online income, build that income over time, and reach the place where you don't worry about money. And when you think about that, think about a year or 2 or 3. What if it takes 5 years to build wealth within OnPassive, but you can do all the things that I just talked about in that 5-year period? You're cutting 5 years off of that span it would take you to become a millionaire, to become wealthy. And that's where we all want to be. We want to be in a place where we have the wealth to be able to do the things we want to do, when we want to do them, and how we want to do them. Mr. Mufareh is going to be explaining all of that in the coming weeks. This is a really, really exciting time within OnPassive. And OnPassive, because of Ash's vision, we're going to be able to do all of those things we need to do to find that place where we have wealth. And it's really, really interesting. All the stuff that we're doing now is the stuff we do in between to get to the place where we can be extremely generous. Because of what's going to be coming in, it's funny. The person you are today will be the person you are when you have wealth. If you're a jerk today, you're going to be a jerk when you're wealthy. If you're a person of generosity and gratitude, when the wealth comes in, you're still going to be that person of generosity and gratitude. And the nice thing about what Mr. Mufara is going to be doing for all of us over time, could take a year, 2, 3, 4, whatever it takes. And you're going to see that when Mr. Mufara comes out and explains exactly what OnPassive is going to be doing. When you get there, that spirit of generosity, it really has more value than any of the wealth that you're going to accumulate. And I think everybody here and listening will accumulate a tremendous amount of wealth over the coming months and years to come. And when that happens, think about all of us here, all of the people listening on the YouTube that have good hearts, they want to be generous, and what we can do throughout the countries that we're in today. And we're a global group here. We're all over the world. What we can do where we're at. And from there, have testimonials about what's going on in the world. I can't go there. Ash talked about a couple of things. That he talked about the people in OnPassive and just how good of hearts people have here and what's going to be happening around the world. I had to watch myself, Chris, but we're in a really, really good place. Wealth can be made independent of OnPassive. That's the key. You can build wealth outside of OnPassive. There are many people online. Again, some of them do very, very well, and it's how they make their living talking about wealth. Why? Because people want to hear about wealth. You can go and find those individuals online. Just look up how to build wealth and put baby steps in there. You'll go to one individual that's very, very good. And it's always good to listen to wise individuals. And the last thing I'll say, wherever wisdom comes from, more precious than gold and silver, wherever it comes from, go find it, go read it, make it your own, and then put it to use for you. If you do that, and by the way, OnPassive is part of that place where you find wisdom. Mr. Mufara has a ton of it, and he's sharing it with all of us. But wherever you find it, grab it, make it your own, and then implement it. And if you do that, everything becomes kind of easy. It really does, guys. So I wanted to go there. I wanted to talk about wealth a little bit. All of these precepts that I've talked about, they're out there. They've been out there for years and years and years. The problem is nobody uses them. The younger you are, the better off you are. With OnPassive, it doesn't matter if you're 18 or 85. Because of the way Mr. Mufara has structured it, because of the way things are going to be coming out, you're going to be able to do the things you need to do to get to that place, again, where you don't worry about finances. It's where we all want to be.